It's the first comic that I saw that had a very specific trigger warning on the first page.
Come on and visit for any occasion. Don't keep patting down waiting. Comics and conversation. Keep the conversation moving along. Keep reading comics, keep your local store strong. If it's hard, then it's a job for the challengers. Comics and conversation, y'all.
From Challengers Comics and Conversation in Chicago, this is Contest of Challengers. And now, here are Patrick Brower and W. Dal Bush.
Dal, before we even start this episode...
Which we technically just have, but okay.
Whoops. Oh well, never mind.
Okay. Take two.
Before we even get into the meat of this episode, we have not a clarification, not a
correction?
Not a correction, but an addition.
An addendum?
From last episode, in which we were recounting our wonderful Patreon subscribers. Mm-hmm. Or patrons. I don't know. Subscribers, the right word? I guess.
Patrons.
You subscribe to it, but yeah.
Yeah, patrons.
And in the thank you section, we forgot to mention new patron, Christina McChrystal.
Now it's we, huh?
I didn't hear you say her name.
I can't see the board.
It didn't matter, did it? It wasn't on the board.
Oh.
That's why we didn't say it.
Oh, then it's doubly your fault then. That's your job, writing the names on the board.
I mean, you should know
who
they
are.
Your
only job.
They're supporting you.
The only thing you're supposed to do is write the names on the board. You didn't do it.
Well, it's on the board now. And
thank you.
Christina, I'm very sorry you weren't mentioned last episode, and I hope you weren't listening saying, hey, what happened? It was an oversight. But look on the bright side.
Yeah.
You got a whole mention by yourself.
It's true. Did she rescind her subscription in the meantime?
Not that I've noticed.
Okay, so basically we're doing this for nothing then. Because you can just skip everybody, is what I'm hearing.
No, it's...
The precious minute that we spend each month recounting every subscriber, or patron if you will.
I will.
Is now exposed as unnecessary.
Oh, if we start exposing things from Patreon now...
Uh-oh, weird.
I mean, come on.
Weird.
Come on. At this point in the week, what I'm about to launch into, I don't know if it's going to be redundant in what I do after this, but the episode that people are listening to right now wasn't actually supposed to be put up yet. It was for later this week, but this week's episode was supposed to be an interview I conducted with Aubrey Sitterson and Chris Moreno, the two creators of the brand new 10-speed press, the comic book story of professional wrestling graphic novel that just came out this week for us, for Diamond accounts. And I talked to them, they both live in LA, and I talked to them yesterday and recorded an episode. And it's no surprise to listeners of this show that whenever I try to...
Or guests. It's no surprise to guests either.
Whenever I try to record from Skype, there's always some sort of issue, but it's always something new. It's always something fresh and exciting. And what happened this time was, after it was all said and done, and it was a multiple person recording, so that worked fine. And like I said before, I use Pamela to record. And I use a Samsung, I forget what kind of mic, what it's called. But it was bought specifically for this purpose. And I made sure that Pamela was counting down, and it did, and Pamela did record things. But when I went back to check the recording, something very odd occurred. Quietly, but recorded, and I guess I shouldn't say quietly, but at normal levels, was the conversation between the three of us. Right? Fine, great.
Okay.
But then, let's say at a certain point in the conversation, I said, hey Dal, what'd you have for lunch today? And you would respond,
I had hot dogs from the Hat.
I wanted hot dogs tonight.
Oh, really? Sorry.
So quietly, you'd hear me say, hey Dal, what'd you have for lunch? And you'd hear Dal say, I had hot dogs from the Hat. And then we'd keep talking about something else. 30 seconds later, loudly, you hear you say, I had hot dogs from the Hat.
Weird.
You don't hear me. It's like it's the same recording repeated, but in a 30-second delay without my parts.
Huh.
So you hear Aubrey and Chris talking more clearly than you do in the, I don't know, bass recording, but you don't hear me.
How strange.
It's very strange, and I think that tech people listening, the first thing they'll say is, well, did you have was it recording the speakers as well as the internal?
Have you tried reversing the polarity? Definitely do that. If you haven't done that, try that.
But I can say that I had headphones on, so it couldn't have been picking up. I mean, it could have picked up me separately. I don't understand any of it. So the recording, and because it's the way it's done, it's just one track. I can't separate them. I can't just drop that track out or something. And the louder track doesn't have me on it. And kind of like what happened with Brian Hibbs when we did that one. But before I started recording, I went and made sure that it had the right input, the right microphone selection. Everything was correct. Now, what I didn't do, which is entirely my fault, as a backup, what I think we did for that one would have been to use my phone to record it, but then I would not have been able to use the headphones because then my phone would only pick up me.
Okay.
But I should have probably not used the headphones and had my phone as a backup just in case.
Okay.
Only I didn't.
No.
And I have these two very well versed in their field creators in a conversation that was further and further away from me gushing about the book.
Okay.
And just more about like comics in general and the process and social media and all these things that I want to put out, but it's like I wasted their time.
Sure.
Like Chris did this on his lunch hour.
Oh, geez.
And it took forever to schedule. I joked it was like trying to schedule band practice because with 3 people, one person, like 2 people, like I can do this day, one person couldn't, kind of thing. So we got it, and it was great. And I did a bunch of research ahead of time, and one of the things I'd said was I felt bad. I didn't want to ask them questions that I've heard them answer before, but I also know that the people listening wouldn't have heard those interviews.
Okay.
So it's a fine line between keeping it exciting for them, but keeping it interesting for the people listening.
Sure.
And I really don't think that putting out the jumbled version is going to be interesting to people. You can clearly hear Aubrey and Chris answering my questions, and it just sounds like they're in like a call center, so you can hear stuff in the background.
Sure.
But you don't hear my questions.
Weird.
Except for when there's like long pauses, then you can hear the back audio fine. So I still want to put it out because I don't want to have wasted their time.
Sure.
But it was supposed to be this Monday episode.
Yeah.
And it's not.
Yeah.
So instead, I'm going to talk to you all about the comic book story of professional wrestling.
Okay, I didn't read it yet.
So, Del, tell me about wrestling.
Well, when 2 people hate each other very much, sometimes they have to settle it in the ring.
What about All In? That's a joke, because the book stops before All In.
Oh, okay.
Because you got it. Thank you for laughing.
Delightful.
Yay! All right, so now that, and I feel like I'm going to say all of that again as a preface to that episode when I release it.
Oh, I thought you meant like in 30 seconds. But louder.
No, you couldn't hear me, that's the problem.
Well, that's the thing. This time you just wouldn't hear me. It would just be you saying your thing 30 seconds later, louder. Please don't, by the way.
I won't.
Thanks.
If it wasn't too much effort, I think it'd be great if we each did one half of a podcast separately. And then let the other person, like, either put them together or, like...
So, briefly on the topic of comic books or comic books related media, I was reading something where Tom Hardy, for the motion picture Venom that came out, based on the...
Is he Matt and Jeff's brother?
The G.I. Joe villains. Venom. The drug dealers.
I see.
But
Cold
it...
Slither.
So basically, for people who haven't seen it, and if you've even seen the trailers, the Venom suit, the symbiote, talks to Eddie Brock in the movie, so that Eddie Brock will frequently be having these one-sided conversations to people around him.
Nobody else can hear the Venom voice.
But Eddie can hear the Venom symbiote. To achieve that effect, in the morning, Tom Hardy would record the Venom lines, and then he would have a little earpiece in, so only he would hear it, and then someone basically would off screen would trigger it. So he would be responding to his own performance.
Okay.
Like, so he wasn't just like out of thin air pretending that he's talking to somebody. He was legitimately having a conversation with the other actor, but it was him 8 hours earlier.
Yeah, I mean, I assumed somebody was feeding him lines or something in that regard.
But he in the scene, only he could hear it.
Sure, yeah.
I thought that was neat.
Did he do anything special to do the Venom voice, or is it just all effects?
I have no idea. I didn't read that much about it.
Drink a whole bunch of gravel?
The only two things I think I read about Venom was that anecdote, and then there's a sequence in a restaurant that Tom Hardy, when he got to the set, improv'd a few things that made it into the film. But I don't want to talk about that because that might be a surprise for people.
Great, now they know there's a restaurant.
Uh-oh.
It's all brains, by the way. I want to eat your brains.
Mm-hmm.
I want to eat your brains.
Farm-to-table brains. Typical San Francisco.
What got us into the Venom thing? Oh, right, doing separate sides of the podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be more work than I feel like giving it.
Sure.
Regularly. So now it's been another week.
Yes.
So it's time to check in with another chapter of Challengers and their alarm company.
Goodness.
Well, hopefully...
Briefly.
Hopefully this is the final chapter. Mm-hmm. Because we did have yet a different... the third or fourth technician come out and check the system, and the complaint we had about the placement of the door sensor got resolved in a way that I'm happy with.
Yeah,
I liked his workaround for it.
Sure.
Because the previous technician had drilled some permanent holes into the door, mm-hmm. which everybody previous to that was just using like foam tape.
Sure.
So there was no damage. So I was worried about this having to be moved, mm-hmm. and more holes being put into the door.
Sure.
But he worked around it.
Yeah.
He didn't need it, and
came out okay.
He seemed like he was going to not understand a lot of what we were asking. Didn't you get that impression from him?
Nope.
Wasn't there like a few times he asked you things, you just looked at him like, what?
Not really. It seemed like he tested it out, and it was more involved than I thought it was going to be, but it all worked in the end, so I was happy with it.
And was there a lot of systems testing? And
yeah, he had to take apart several things to reconfigure them and make sure that they didn't cause an incident while he was trying to move things around.
Oh, I do have to say that. I forgot to mention this last time when the technician from a week ago Friday was in, and he needed to see where the panel was in the back room. Mm-hmm. And if you recall what we had to go through to get access to the panel for one of the previous techs.
Sure. This
guy just stuck the ladder there, climbed right up.
Yeah.
It didn't move anything around.
Didn't seem like you'd need to move around that much stuff, but whatever.
Yeah. Because I'm like, do you need me to move stuff? He's like, nope, I got it. And he was up and down and doing stuff.
Cool.
So that's most likely the last part of this story. However, there is an addendum. Again, another addendum.
Word of the day.
As you know, we got a citation for a false burglar alarm, which is what we talked about last week, which is one of the reasons we had to have this whole thing done. And today is day 6 since we got that citation, and you need to pay it within 7 days. Mm-hmm. So I go online to pay it, and I can't figure out where to pay it. Like, they give me the website to go to, but it's to pay for anything for the city, from speeding tickets to traffic cam tickets to restaurant violations to things like that. And I couldn't specifically find where to pay for this. Uh-huh. And I thought I found, and I did actually. The place that I went to was the right part, but it asked for a docket number.
Oh,
and we didn't. Our
this
court
wasn't
date.
A trial.
Well, I mean, there's a court date for it,
right?
But it's at the end of November.
Okay,
and it's a thing we don't have to go to. But there was a number, so I called, and I got a very helpful gentleman from the city of Chicago, and he asked when the occurrence was, and I said it was 6 days ago. And he kind of laughed and said, "Oh, that won't be in there." And I said, what? He said, that's not going to be in there yet. It takes at least 14 days for it to be in the system. At least 14 days. And I said, but it said I had to pay it within 7 days. And he goes, nah, you don't have to.
Okay, thanks.
Like, all right. He goes, when is your court date? And I said, the end of November. He said, you can pay it up to the day of your court date. It doesn't go up in price. It doesn't change your fee.
Okay.
You're fine. And he said, again, it will not be in the system for at least another week, if not longer.
Okay.
Oh, well then. I'm glad I was worried about paying it on time.
Sure.
And then, because this is all in the same level of topic of bureaucracy and accountants and things like that, I decided to call People's Gas again this week to see what was going on with our deactivated account. To recap to that, someone in our building claimed our address and got the gas transferred to them. So we hadn't been getting billed for the last several months. And so I called back and talked to somebody who put me on hold for, I don't know, like 25 minutes or so. But long story short, that's now taken care of.
Cool.
It's back in our name. And initially they said that there was going to be, upwards of 6 months worth of back natural gas fees that we'd have to pay, because we haven't paid them forever.
Sure.
But this guy said that there was a credit on our account. That came out pretty well. But I'd said, can we do something to make it so this can't happen again? So somebody just can't say, hey, this is my address, I need this. And he basically said no, and then it has to do with the way the postal system is set up with addresses. And so basically anybody can call and claim it.
Huh.
However, he is going to put a note in the account that anybody who wants to call to set up a new service has to have the meter number.
Okay.
The problem with that is I don't know our meter number.
Well, we don't call, so...
Well, I know, but I mean, if we need to get it back.
Oh.
If someone is able to do it or something, I would like to have this information at my hands to be able to say, no, that's our meter. Because all of the meters for the building, residential and commercial, are all next to each other. Mm-hmm. It's just a matter of figuring out which one is the right one.
Sure.
And I think we have two different ones, honestly. I'm not entirely sure how that goes. So that was my story of paperwork and bureaucracy for the week.
Okay.
And that's what I have. I figured there'd be such a lot of bantering, a lot of back and forth that
Really?
would have given us at least,
Really?
at least 40 minutes.
Really?
No, I didn't think that at all. As we are recording this, the Ace Comic-Con is going on at the Navy Pier.
Yeah, it just would have started an hour ago, more or less. It's only in the evening on Friday.
Okay.
It's like 4 to 7 or 8 or something. Maybe a little later. And then it's normal hours Saturday and Sunday.
Well, I can't say that anybody's mentioned anything about it at the store.
No. I mean, we've given out cards.
Sure.
But yeah, I don't think anyone specifically said they were going or had questions about it.
Well, I did do some looking up, and while Matt Smith is there for Doctor Who and Karen Gillan is there for the Avengers, they are doing multiple photo shoots together.
Sure. There's a ton of photo shoot options. It's.
I mean, that's what the whole show is about.
Yeah, Ace is basically people who used to work for Wizard. So it's done very much in the same way Wizard World is now. And if anything, to a greater degree, it's more of a focus on celebrities. Like, the programming track is 2 stages. A gigantic stage where they'll have, like, Saturday it's a thing with, at one time, Chris Evans, Karen Gillan, and Lee Pace talking about Marvel movies.
Okay.
And then there's that's like 2/3 of the arena, more or less, when they've done it other places. And then 1/3 of the arena is the opposite side of that panel. Basically, like, take an arena, a round arena, and then kind of separate it so that 2/3 is on the left side and 1/3 is on the right side, and there's like a curtain running down separating the two.
Uh-huh.
On the left side of the curtain is where the gigantic full stage stuff happens, and then like the right side is like a second stage where they'll have smaller programming things where it's like a local podcaster talks about comic books, or someone shows you how to make an Overwatch costume or whatever.
Wait, are you doing a podcast
I'm not.
seminar tomorrow?
I'm not.
Are you making an Overwatch costume?
I'm not. So the second stage panel basically is on kind of the off time of the main stage panel. So they have stuff all the time, but it's not necessarily like big stuff. And it's not multiple panel rooms. It's 2 different stages. That's it for the day.
So it's like Riot Fest.
I'd never been to Riot Fest, so maybe. They also, at arenas and stuff, is where they've mostly done these shows. They don't do them at like convention centers. They're specifically picking other cities, other types of venues. And since the focus is, the main stage programming, essentially what would be like a Hall H thing at San Diego, the other thing that they're promoting is the photo ops and the autographs. Like, that's the main thing. The Artist Alley and vendor space is basically like 30 different things. That's it. Kind of around the circuit where like the concession stands would be at an arena, or the souvenir stands. Now it's just like a table where Donny Cates is signing, or someone selling foam swords, whatever. Whoever they get. So yeah, it's the Friday night is very much the wrestler night. Seth Rollins, Alexa Bliss, some other people, I think.
Yeah, I just found out today that Alexa Bliss has been in town since yesterday, and got a whole bunch of new tattoos around the corner at Metamorph.
You should have staked them out.
And didn't come by the store.
Why would she?
Because we are an award-winning comic book store that wrestlers come to.
Oh.
She is an award-winning wrestler.
Is she? Has she won awards?
I assume.
Okay, maybe.
I don't know that she hasn't.
Saturday at Ace Comic Con will have been, I guess, by the time people are hearing this, Matt Smith, Chris Evans, Karen Gillan, Lee Pace, and then Sunday is Tom Hiddleston. And
wait, you mean doing one panel?
Multiple panels.
Okay.
Basically, it's the big panels on Saturday are Zazie Beetz, then at one panel Chris Evans, Lee Pace, Karen Gillan, and then the next panel after that is Matt Smith.
Okay.
So it's like 3 different panels. And then Sunday is Tom Hiddleston and somebody else maybe? I don't remember. But yeah, tons of different like photo ops where you can get Chris Evans and Tom Hiddleston and Lee Pace and Karen Gillan, or just Tom Hiddleston and Chris Evans, or Chris Evans by himself, or Chris Evans by himself holding a shield.
Yeah, that's a different one,
Like,
right?
these are all different options.
Yep.
At one point, Josh Brolin was going to be one of the featured guests, and he had different photo ops depending on if you wanted a photo with Josh Brolin or a photo with Josh Brolin holding an Infinity Gauntlet. That was more expensive.
Yeah. That's interesting to me. What if you brought your own? I wonder if they'd be like, no, you can't use it.
Probably not. They probably have real specific limitations on what you can bring into a photo op.
Huh.
Yeah, it's much like the Wizard World show. It's interesting to me that there's a market for this. It's the idea of like autographs and photo sessions is something I don't put a lot of weight on. I don't find it terribly interesting, and it's nothing that I would pay money for. But looking over the photo op price list and stuff last night, most of that stuff is sold out. Like, they have multiple photo sessions, and for Saturday, like, a ton of them are sold out.
I was actually interested in the Matt Smith, Karen Gillan.
Yeah.
And for the life of me, I just realized now all along you were saying Karen Gillan and not Kieran Gillan. And each time you were saying it, I'm like, why is he part of that Marvel movie panel? It doesn't make any sense to me.
He wrote the Loki comic, right?
Sure, but...
Well, he wrote a Loki
comic.
In Journey to Mystery.
I just now literally figured out you're saying Karen Gillan.
Uh-huh. Nebula. Nebula's there.
Yes.
And the person I'd forgotten on Sunday who's appearing alongside Tom Hiddleston is Elizabeth Olsen.
I was going to say either Don Cheadle or Elizabeth Olsen.
I don't remember if Don Cheadle's there or not. I think he was supposed to be at one point. I don't know if he still is.
He was the announced replacement.
Oh, okay.
But I don't know if he's still there as well. I mean,
I don't remember seeing him on the Saturday stuff. So if he's replacing, it's like on Sunday?
Yeah, but literally I'm like, oh man. Like, I don't have the time and I'm not going to this show.
Uh-huh.
But I would have, if I was, because I can get in.
Right.
I strongly would have entertained the notion of getting a photo op with Matt Smith and Karen Gillan.
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm working. It's Walking Dead Day, and we have Daniel Warren Johnson in.
We do. It's true.
And they're not there Sunday.
No, again, like, people are there for very specific days. Although that said, like, Tom Hiddleston His panel is on Sunday, but his photo ops and autographs and stuff are all day Saturday. So did you look and see if they're there Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, their names, I didn't look at photo ops. They said, appearing Friday, Saturday.
Okay.
Yeah. But I mean, I got Joe Jackson tickets today, so I can't.
There you go.
I can't complain.
It all worked out.
There's something,
Yeah.
You can't do everything.
No.
You can't do everything. You can do a lot of busy work in the store because, I don't know if it's because the weather changed so dramatically and it went from no coats at all to winter coats.
Yeah, pretty fast.
In the span of a day.
Yeah.
And it's going to be this way for the next week.
Typical 24-hour Chicago autumn.
Right? I just, I want my windbreaker season.
Nope.
I haven't had
Wrong
that yet.
city.
I think I've worn it once. But yeah, winter coat.
Yep. 40 degrees out there, man.
Yeah. Our friend Philip was in today, and his hands were freezing.
Sure.
Freezing. He walked in and said, "Oh, good, it's warm in here." I'm like, "Not that bad outside." And he held out his hand, and it was ice cold. Like he just dunked it in a bucket of ice water.
Should have worn gloves.
Yeah, and he was holding it. I'm like, "What, are you holding an iced coffee?" No, it was a hot coffee. But his hands are still freezing. It's weird, but, that is Chicago. And there's always the point where we mentioned this before, the first snow, the first really nice day, the first major change of temperature either way, business is terrible that day.
Yeah, no one knows what to do.
Yeah. People forget season to season. And last year, I was kind of happy because we got snowfall really early in December. I'm like, good, let's get this out of the way before Christmas starts. And then we didn't get snow again for a month.
Yeah.
So by the time we got it again, it was like people forgot all over again.
Yeah.
And went from there. And all I'm saying is the last 2 days at the store have been really slow.
Yeah.
I mean, below average slow.
Yep.
And I honestly don't think that Ace has anything to do with it. I don't think the people that were at the Ace Comic-Con are people that would have been coming in today.
I don't think so.
Or saving their money. Maybe they're all just so excited from watching the new Doctor Who that they just forgot to do things, like go to work or buy their comics.
That must be it.
I would imagine.
I feel like that's probably it.
Hey, did you get a chance to read My Heroes Have Always Been Junkies yet?
No.
Yeah, me neither.
I didn't read anything.
Oh, man. Well, that goes my whole other line of inquiry.
Well, I read some new stuff that came out comics-wise, but, not a lot of it. What were you... Was there something specific you had read that you wanted to talk about?
No, I wanted to hear how good My Heroes Have Always Been Junkies were.
Yeah, I don't know. Let's assume great.
Yeah.
I assume it's great.
Let's talk about what we liked.
Yeah.
The story.
Uh-huh.
The art.
Both good.
I did read, finally, after it being out for a week plus, I read Jook Joint #1 today.
What'd you think?
I liked it.
Uh-huh.
It's the first comic that I saw that had a very specific trigger warning on the first page.
Oh, interesting.
And when I say specific, I mean it covered a lot of bases.
Okay.
Like, I've never seen a publisher devote the entire first page of the book to telling you what's going to happen.
Okay.
And it is, well, the text page in the back explains it way better than I will.
Mm-hmm.
But it is definitely a result of being in abusive relationships.
Okay.
And while it reminds me a little bit of Harrow County.
Okay.
But it's definitely it's like Harrow County and Redlands. Definitely
Sure.
a comeuppance rural horror story.
Okay.
I did like it.
Cool.
But it's very heavy. I can't even think of what else came out this week.
Murder Falcon? Did you read Murder Falcon?
Oh yeah, Murder Falcon was great though. I mean, Murder Falcon was, like I said all along, like the book was written for me.
Sure.
I'm interested to hear what people hear in their heads when Jake is playing the guitar.
Okay.
But knowing the specific influences that Daniel Warren Johnson had for making this book, I hear those performers.
Uh-huh.
And today I made the signing cards that we use for the creators.
Okay.
The creator nameplate.
Mm-hmm.
I did like the next 5 of them.
Great.
Everything we have on the schedule, because we have the new format for it.
Sure.
So I did those, and the picture I have for Daniel is him playing guitar.
Nice.
Yeah, I think it's pretty fitting. Big smile on his face. A wonderful white Jackson guitar in his hands.
Cool.
I was tempted to bring a guitar tomorrow and let him play,
Uh-huh.
but that's a lot of work.
It really is.
Yeah. I mean, everything is set up in the den. I could just grab. I already have the amp out there and some cords and stuff, but I also don't want to put him on the spot. Maybe he doesn't want to play.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, that's not for me to say.
No.
So I did the setup for Walking Dead Day, and since we have a limited number of those blind bags,
Okay.
I was going to limit to one per issue.
Okay.
You're okay with that?
Sure.
Since we have so few per issue, I didn't want somebody saying, "Oh, it's number 1. I want 5 of them," or whatever the J. Scott Campbell was.
Sure.
And I didn't go down and make a list of who was in each bag. I don't know what that is. I mean,
Okay.
That's extra effort. But
Sure.
I took down the dollar books and put everything up there.
Okay.
And then I'm keeping Daniel's issue behind until he's there.
Sure.
A bunch of people buying Murder Falcon today.
That's great.
Hopefully for the signing. A lot of people trying. Like I had a guy who had a big stack. I'm like, I gotta limit it too, man. I'm sorry, that's our policy.
Yeah.
What about 2 of each cover? But yeah, there's I don't know if it's getting a lot of press or because he's going to be here. One guy's like, I need it for my crew. Like they don't have a chance to get it.
It's
Sorry?
available in stores nationwide.
Sorry? But yeah, I mean, I don't like, especially on a day like today, I don't like turning money away.
Sure.
But it's, we got to be prepared for the signing.
Sure.
And then I realized toward the end of the day when I set everything up, I then took all those Murder Falcons back off the table. I mean, there's still a few on the shelf.
Sure.
But I don't want, because he's not coming until 1.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm gonna wait a little bit.
Okay.
So yeah, we're ready for that.
Excellent.
All these talking about this is almost superfluous because it's over.
Yeah,
by the time this
happened.
happened. Yeah. Yeah, and then there's 2 events next week. We do back-to-back Wednesday, Thursday
Yeah.
with Henri Kampmann. Mainly they're promoting his Kickstarter. I don't know that he doesn't necessarily have a new issue. Jimmy had asked us to get a signed copy of the new issue, but he doesn't have it yet. It's just being kickstarted. And then Jason Walls with Last Pick on Thursday. Are you going to be there for that?
Yeah.
Okay. I will not be. I will not be there for these 2 events.
No.
But I'll come back again one day if you're good. I am looking forward to Daredevil Season 3 starting next Friday.
Okay.
It's getting good reviews so far, but I don't know that I trust a lot of the review sites I've been to
Okay.
for it, i.e. 411.
Sure.
They gave it an 8.5.
All right.
What they did, man, I looked at, they gave, I can't remember this. There's, like, they gave Titans a 7.5, and I thought, okay, that means it's bad.
Yeah, doesn't sound great.
Because Titans debuted last night.
Okay. I don't think I've read anything about it beyond the New York Comic Con stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Obviously I didn't see it, so I don't know. So one thing that I saw in the comics this week that angered me, and I thought I'd bring it up, and not that this whole podcast is just about things that I don't like, but when comic creators pass away, usually the companies that they work for will pay tribute to them in the comics and ads. Like when Steve Ditko passed earlier this year, both Marvel and DC had very nice tributes.
Sure.
Marvel did multiple pages with interviews with a bunch of their creators, all about what he meant. And more recently, Marie Severin passed away, and she had most famously worked on the Hulk, but had been in the Marvel bullpen and done a lot of things. And so there was a really nice one-page tribute to her in all their books. And then right after Marie Severin passed away, Gary Friedrich passed away. And also they have tributes to him in their books this week or this month. And he's most noted in Marvel history for co-creating Ghost Rider. The original Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider. Not the Western one, not
Danny Ketch.
Not Danny Ketch, not Gabe Ruiz. What rubs me the wrong way is that Marvel sued the crap out of him in the later years of his life for selling Ghost Rider merchandise at conventions. Like, he had prints made, and he was selling them at shows because he created Ghost Rider, but he doesn't own Ghost Rider, And Marvel sued him. Like, they didn't just tell him to stop doing it. They took him to court, and they won, and they won a lot of money off of him.
Yeah.
And to see this whole, like, oh, we're so sorry Gary Friedrich died, I don't think he would have been happy with that tribute from them.
No. I think the last thing he would have wanted was Marvel honoring his legacy.
Yeah. And maybe it was editorial's decision to do that, and maybe it's legitimately people that are upset that he passed, as well they should be. And he has left an indelible mark in the annals of comics history. But, man, seeing them do this full-page tribute to them, knowing what they did to him,
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Not
I don't
a
know.
great look.
No, and I know people don't know about the lawsuit, and I don't know. Maybe it was amicable. Maybe they patched things up, but
I mean,
it wasn't the first
unless
thing
they
I thought
gave
of.
him all the money back, I don't know
Yeah.
how amicable it could possibly be.
Yeah, just a bad taste in my mouth for that.
Yeah, I looked through the comics news and stuff for the last 4 days, and there's honestly nothing I want to talk about. Some of it's just, someone's thing got optioned. James Gunn is doing movie stuff. There's rumors about Black Label, but no official confirmation or announcements.
Yeah. You said Heidi at the Beat had a really big an article about all the possibilities surrounding
just
Batman.
rumors
Damned.
and gossip coming out of New York Comic Con, and it's so. I don't want to say poorly sourced because I'm sure she heard it from a few different people, but it feels so speculative that I don't want to talk about what could happen next with Black Label and who's in trouble.
Yeah, there's
I
a
don't
lot
know,
of
whatever.
maybe this or maybe that's. Who knows?
Yeah. And I feel like we've done as much speculation as we want to do about why Batman Damned #1 isn't being reprinted and all that sort of stuff. It's
And if and when #2 will come out.
whatever. Yeah, I right now I don't feel excited about talking about that more without there being an actual announcement from anybody.
Now, slowly this week, Marvel had been putting out teasers of the new Guardians of the Galaxy book coming out in January by Jeff Shaw and Donny Cates.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of those, hey, we took the image and we blacked it all out and we're going to slowly add more characters into it. So they released all the characters. Finally today the full image went up with 11 or 12 different characters. And then the caption above it, had you seen it?
I saw the whole team, but I don't think I saw the caption.
You didn't see the whole team.
No?
Which of these 6 people will be the new Guardians of the Galaxy?
Oh, funny.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
It's the West Coast Avengers #1 cover.
So it's
Here's a ton of people. Some of them are going to be on the team,
Yeah.
some of them are just on the cover.
and it was like Silver Surfer and Beta Ray Bill and Star-Lord and Groot and
Phyla-Vell and Moondragon and Darkhawk and Cosmic Ghost Rider.
yeah.
Yeah.
Which of these 6 will be the Guardians?
Okay.
Because I'm like, man, you're going to have a 12-person team? Like, that's Legion numbers.
Nope.
That's insane.
Nope.
Keeping all those different voices separately? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Maybe they'll have 2 teams of 6. How about that?
Maybe they will.
The other 2 news item things are just gross 2018 stuff. Bleeding Cool ran an article about, which, depending on who you talk to, is either an indictment of or an endorsement of a white supremacist.
Oh.
But I don't read Bleeding Cool, so
Sure.
I don't 100% care what dumb things they do for dumb reasons, but it's led to a shakeup in their editorial structure. And the other thing
They have one?
Again, this was all news to me. Chuck Wendig, who is a guy who's written Star Wars novels and comics, he was going to be doing a new 5-issue series. 3 scripts were done. Marvel fired him for being political and vulgar on his Twitter account.
Really? Because I feel like he has a quote on the cover of Jook Joint #1.
He might. I don't
Wow.
know. I don't remember.
Was this a Star Wars book he was writing?
It
Or
was
didn't say?
it was a 5-issue Star Wars book that I guess had just been announced over the weekend at New York.
Okay.
And then there was another book that he was supposed to be doing that hadn't been announced yet, and he's off both of them. He had a very, very, very long Twitter thread where he talks about it, and it's all horrible stuff that I don't love talking about
Sure.
because it's
we don't have to at all.
it's the James Gunn thing all over again, where horrible people caused a company to fire somebody because that person didn't agree with them politically. But we need to have civility, and creators have to compose themselves online and treat everybody equally. And these are people who are having a sustained, brutal harassment campaign against not just him, but plenty of other people. So the idea of, like, treat them like customers and be polite is bullshit. And it's, once again, a company kind of putting creators on the front line saying, like, you have to take whatever shit that gets slung at you and not fight back because you're representing the company, except you're not an employee. And we're not paying you like you're an employee, and you don't have any job security like you're an employee, but you represent the company like an employee. So it's stupid stuff like that. More dumb 2018 stuff.
And in line with that, I'm just going to say that I hate it when people in contexts that I don't think it helps anything use superheroes as reference.
Like what?
Like Kanye West saying that Superman was always his favorite superhero, and that his choice of baseball cap, that's his Superman cape.
Okay.
That turns him into a superhero.
I don't think it's useful to take anything Kanye West says seriously.
I don't either, but I don't...
Very, very difficult to follow his train of thought.
I just didn't want the Superman comparison.
Sure, it's unfortunate, that's for sure.
Well, Dal, not every episode of Contest of Challengers has to be a marathon.
It's true.
Some of them are a light jog.
Sure. We're letting people get on with their week.
And especially since I just recorded one of these yesterday.
Yeah, right.
I am more than happy to say thank you for listening.
And keep reading comics.
This has been Contest of Challengers. Thanks for listening. Keep reading comics. Challengers is located at 1845 Northwestern Avenue in the Bucktown neighborhood of Chicago. 773-278-0155. Keep up to date with new releases and events at challengerscomics.com. Like Challengers Comics on Facebook, follow @Challengers on Twitter, and help fund this podcast at patreon.com/challengers.